thank all of you who's already joined on Zoom. And for all of you others who's looking at us on Facebook Live, you're welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lars Tveter, so I'm the business manager for Syngenta Nordics, and I've been here for last 8 years. Today, in our 3 webinar series, we are today on number 2. So today is going to be pigments and fungicides together and separate. And it's going to be held by Rod Burke and from Syngenta. They will introduce themselves in a little bit. I will get to that. And Mark Sheridan, who's working at the Irish Sports Turf Institute. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah.
I think I made it. Now I think I will hand it over to Rod. So if you can please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Rod Burke. I'm the marketing lead for Turf and Landscape for Europe, Africa and the Middle East. And I think I kicked off the Nordic business before even Lars even started. So I've got a lot of history up in the Nordics, and yeah, and I love the business up there as well. So that's me.
Thanks, Rod. Mark, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Mark Sheridan. I'm the, I'm not sure, principal chief bottle washer at the Irish Sports Turf Institute. So basically we're a new research facility, independent research facility based in Wicklow, Ireland. We're on the go 6 years, and yeah, we carry out work for not only Syngenta, but for quite a few of the agrochemical manufacturers that are in the European marketplace.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, so Rod, I think I'll just hand over to you and you can start off. So please, if you can all just mute yourself, and then I will just give it over to Rod. Thank you.
Yeah, no thanks. So what we're going to cover today is the benefits of Rider for overwinter survival. We'll look at the impact of Rider when it's mixed with fungicides. We'll look at rates and patterns of use. And I'm very pleased that Mark is here because he's done a lot of work with Rider in combination with fungicide programs. So we wanted him to come and share his work and tell you what experience that he's had with the pigments when the mixed and fungicide programs. Okay, first just an introduction to Rider. It's a stable phthalocyanin green pigment. So you can see it in its powder form on the picture on the right. But Rider is a liquid and SC formulation. It's highly concentrated, so it's 70% green pigment. And the formulation includes both stickers and spreaders. So there's lots of different pigments available, you know, and even lots of different green pigments available as well. And each one has a slightly different color and a slightly different profile of light that they absorb. And it's also very important what stickers and spreaders are in the formulation. That really impacts the longevity of the product and even the color of the product as well. And just to highlight the difference between pigments and dyes, pigments are insoluble in water and are very long lasting, where dyes tend to be very short-lived and they're water-soluble. So that's the main difference between a pigment and a dye type of product. So 2 key things we're going to talk about today. One is the benefit of UV protection that Rider brings, so filtering out harmful UV light. And the other one is the benefit of the colour that Rider brings. So we're going to talk about both those aspects today. One of the interesting things about Rider we spotted very early was that it could impact plant health and turf quality when the turf's under stress. And it took us a little while to get our head around this because we don't believe it's having a direct impact on drought stress or heat stress, for instance. But what we believe it's doing is have an impact on the secondary stress of light. So when a plant's under stress, drought stress, heat stress, cold stress, salinity stress, you start to get the production of free radicals in the plant. Those free radicals are very reactive and unstable molecules, and they attack and degrade chlorophyll, protein, and other pigments in the plant. Now, these pigments, they're really important to the plant in terms of protecting the plant against UV and other light stress. So by having reduced levels of the pigment, it's more susceptible to light stress. And this is where Rider comes in. So Rider's mimicking the natural turf pigments by filtering out and protecting the plant from UV light and harmful light. So the plant doesn't have to have the UV light and be damaged by it. So that's what we think is happening under these different stresses. And here's an example of the impact of UV light. So the UV light plant on the right has just a slightly more UV exposure than the control, not a huge amount, but you can see the damage that it's doing. So the UV light is very high in energy and it causes a lot of damage. So you can see that the plant has got a loss of chlorophyll. You can see it's going yellow. The UV light will also be damaging DNA, proteins, and the pigments as well, and causing the production of free radicals that will attack membranes and further degrade the chlorophyll. And UV light like this, the damage done to it is more prevalent when you have a low level of pigments in the plant to protect it. So it's very similar to ourselves. We can get damaged by UV light and we can get sunburn and sunspots, and then we're more likely to get that after we've been through the winter and our natural pigment levels in our skin are very low. So it's the same thing with plants. When the pigment levels are naturally low, they're more likely to get damaged by the UV exposure that we're seeing here. So just going to give you some examples of some of the work that we've done to look at this and the impact on turf health. This is some growth chamber work done in the US. And we're looking at Poa annua that's had 45 days of heat stress. So that's around about 30 degrees it's held in. And you can start to see the impact on the chlorophyll in the plant. So the stress has started to cause the degradation of chlorophyll, but you can see that the Rider, 2 applications of 1 litre prior to the stress, has maintained the chlorophyll levels. So this is due to the protection against light stress that is now degrading and causing free radicals in the plant. So that's the impact that the Rider is having in this situation. And this has a knock-on effect to the plant in terms of photosynthesis as well. So as chlorophyll is degraded, you'll get a drop in the photosynthesis in the plant. And what you can do with the Rider is maintain that photosynthetic rate higher and more efficient by the production and use of the Rider pigment. So the plant's then getting more energy to grow and develop. And you can see that here. So this is taking you through the studies from day 28 to 41. So you can see the impact of heat on the quality of the plant. So you can see that the heat is having an impact, but you can see that when you're using the Rider, the impact is much less. So that's the impact of the light stress on top of the heat stress that we've been talking about. And that's how Rider is helping to alleviate the secondary stress of light on the plant. Going out into the field, this is now some work done at the STRI, and we're looking at a drought trial. So the turf was held at 15% to 20% volumetric moisture content, so it's got a moderate stress. And we applied Rider every 14 days through that summer period. And you can see the impact that it's had on the quality of the turf. So everywhere you've got a star, you've got a significant difference between the Rider and the untreated. So we're seeing some really significant impacts from Rider on turf quality and turf health. And again, it's related to the light, the secondary impact of light and the stress that can cause. We'll come on to show you an example from cold stress in the field later on in the presentation. So we move on to look at the colour, because obviously colour is really important. It's got to look right. You can see here some pictures of Rider squares on a green and the kind of colour that it gives. You select your rate depending on how deep you want the colour. Typically anything from ½ litre up to 2 litres is the kind of range that people are currently using. And once it's dry on the leaf, it's rain fast and very stable. So typically it'll be dry within an hour if you've got a good drying day on a green. And then really it's mostly lost by mowing and cutting the pigment off. If the turf's dormant, it will last a long, long time. We're talking months on the turf. The pigment will last that long. And of course, if it is actively growing, the use of Primo Max or growth regulators can slow the growth down and give you better longevity of the pigment. So it's been used at the Le Golf National, the host venue of the Ryder Cup, and it was used right through the tournament. This is Alejandro first trying it on a split fairway to look at the colour, and he really liked the colour and the product, and he used that right throughout the tournament. And he was currently using just every week a low rate on the greens, so he was very happy with it, and it did a good job for him. It's also used widely in football as well. This is 2 litres of Ryder applied to the Ellen Road pitch where Leeds United play, and it was before the Costa Rica England friendly match a couple of years ago. So very popular in football for the colour in particular, particularly on televised events. And of course, the colour can have an impact on canopy temperature. This is where it could be really important for you guys in the Nordics. So pigments can increase the canopy temperature. Researchers have found some plots where you have pigments up to 3 degrees warmer. I think probably 1 to 2 degrees is probably more likely and common for pigment. But this increase in temperature can slow down the onset of dormancy and help spring recovery once you come out of the winter into the spring and when pigment levels are low. And the difference in temperature is going to depend on how dormant the turf is and what colour it's naturally got. So it's increasing the temperature by increasing the colour, the darkness, if you like, of the plots, so it absorbs more light and then warms up. So we're also interested with Ryder about how it interacted with our fungicides, and we wanted to make sure that there will be no problem with mixing Ryder and fungicides. So we did some work down at Gellets Hill, that's our international research centre, in 2018, and we found some findings. So we sprayed some turf in a track sprayer, and we found that where you add Ryder to Instrata Elite, you had a 25% better retention of the product on the leaf. So quite a significant impact on retention, because when the droplet hits the leaf, it can run off, it could bounce, but Ryder was helping it to stick and stay on the leaf. So that was the first thing we found. And then we wanted to have a look at the deposit and see what we could see there as well. So we did some microscopy, and you can see here 2 droplets. Hopefully you can see my cursor here. It's Instrata Elite. That's a droplet at higher magnification on a leaf. And then you can see the difference with adding the Ryder into that tank mix. Both of these are 0.2 microliters, so it's the same volume, but you can see much better spread and uniformity of that droplet compared to the fungicide alone. We also saw with this mix as well better uptake of the difenoconazole into the leaf as well. So this was really interesting, and we decided to take this to the field and have a look in the field trials what we could see in terms of disease control. So this is the trial that Lars visited, so I'm going to hand this bit over to Lars to talk him through, because I didn't get to see this one, but Lars did, so he knows exactly what went on.
Okay, Rod, thanks. Yeah, this one was up in Apelsvoll in Norway. This is a place up in Toten area. It's an area where it's proper winter, say it like that. They have a proper snow cover, and so it's a very good place to test and do trials. Really good. And we did some tests of Ryder alone and Ryder with medallion and of course controls as well. And when I was up there and looking at these trials, I think it was, you can see on the back side of that picture, you can still see snow, and the snow has just recently gone, so you can see the color already where you have have the applications of rider and the rider medallion and so on. It was really for me, that was really a good thing to see, because you can really see the difference. I don't think the picture is giving you quite. I am not a photographer, unfortunately, and this is my pictures, and it was not the best. Apologize for that, but being there and seeing there for myself, it was really significant difference. Absolutely. So both in quality and in color, you can see areas where the snow had left earliest on the green. You can already see the difference of how earlier the turf is coming back, where you had sprayed rider and medallion, or you didn't have anything. It was significantly different. So it was a good thing to see. Isn't there one more picture? No, it was not. Okay.
Yeah, another picture. Do you want to talk through these slides, Lars? Do you want me to?
Yeah. Well, I can do that. Fine.
Sure.
Yeah. And this is again. I think is this the untreated one. You can see on the left. It's really. It was it 21st of April. You can see the first thing we could see, and then the second one was the 3rd of May. So you can see where you hadn't the control plots was really, you can see disease definitely, and then with medallion application you can see there's significantly much less disease, and then but you can see then medallion and rider together. That's where we can see that was really showing another much better result. This is the program, isn't it?
Yeah, this is turf quality last time.
Oh yeah, this is turf quality. Again, as I said, coming back on the how it looked when the snow left, you can really see differences on the quality. And again, you can see B there and A is really difference when you have rider together. That's what 0.9 application, was it?
It was,
liter?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and the rider and medallion.
Yeah.
3 liter.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And then we've got a picture coming up that hopefully shows it a little bit clearer, the differences. Yeah. And this is from the spring after those 2 autumn medallion rider applications. So yeah, again, as I said, this is the area where the snow had left earliest, and you can see on the back right, you can still see the snow on the back side of the green, so still not melted away. And this area has already been, I think, for 1 week at least, and you can see where we have applied rider and medallion. You can see they are coming back so much quicker. So you have the spring recovery is much quicker than untreated. You can see it here. Yeah. And again, it's not the best picture, but yeah. Yeah, and also you can see that some of the plots have got very little colour, very little pigment. So they're going to be much more susceptible to light damage in that spring period. So again, the rider benefit of temperature, and probably some good benefits in terms of protecting the plant from light stress as it comes out of that winter period as well. Yes, and then just talk about programs and how to get the best out of rider. So typically, we recommend, given the work we've done, to mix that in with your fungicide programs going into the winter and overwintering period. So typically, if you've got 3 fungicides, mix it in with each one, using a rate from 1 up to 2, depending on the colour and the level of protection that you want. I guess if there's no golfers as you go into October, November, you could use even 2 litres, even if it's a little bit darker than you'll typically like. And then if you feel that you need it after you come out in the spring, topping up the rider, if you feel you need to, just to bring back that colour and that protection, and to get that warming effect of the heat absorption as well. So that's typically how we would see the program. And as you've seen, those applications for the autumn should last right through the winter period if the turf is dormant or in the snow. So just a key thing we found is that, you know, apply before the stress or the dormancy begins. That's important with Rider. We found that for good coverage, it's better to, if you can, increase the water rate to maybe 400 to 500 litres. Not to say that you can't use 200 or 300 litres, it will still be fine, but you get better coverage and the colour will be a bit stronger if you do increase the coverage by using slightly higher water volumes. Mow prior to application, so you're not mowing the product off. And then use the higher rates where you've got higher heights to cut, or football pitches, where you want deeper colour or more protection from that light stress or temperature effects as well, because you'll get a darker colour. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is hand over to Mark. Mark's done a lot of work with Rider over at his research station in Ireland. So I'll hand over to you, Mark, and you can talk through what you found.
Okay, thanks, Rod. Okay, well, first of all, we were commissioned in autumn 2018 to undertake extensive work with Rider. There was also a fungicidal element to it. Now I'm just trying to, have I got control, Rod?
Yes, you should have control, Mark, now.
Right, okay, oh, sorry, hang on there now, let's see now. Right. No, I don't seem to be able to pull it down, pull the screen along with me. Do I need to click on something?
No, it says your control. Let me just try again. I'll just...
Sorry, guys.
Right, I'm just going to try again. There you go. Try that. No, there you go. You got it.
Oh, right, was that me?
That's you, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so basically we were commissioned by Syngenta to conduct this piece of research in autumn, commencing autumn 2018. The trial was conducted on our site in Ireland, just in County Wicklow, just outside Dublin. We're at 220 metres above sea level, so we're a little bit colder than if we were down right beside the coast, usually about 1 degree or 1.5 degrees. The trial was conducted on predominantly POA-dominant turf. It was on a sand cap of 140 millimetres of USGA spec sand, and underneath was extensive drainage. So it wasn't on a full USGA specification green, but it was as close as we could get it because it was the first research green that we built. And obviously we were conscious of what we could afford to build. So we tried to replicate as closely as possible. The turf was mown at 4 millimetres throughout the entire trial. It was mown with a ride-on Toro Greensmaster 3100. The trial commenced on the 22nd of September. Now, it was originally going to start a little bit earlier, but we got a bit what we would call a false start in mid-August, where we started getting disease activity. We were kind of conscious that that disease activity would come and possibly go away, as it often does. So we put down an application of fungicide on the intended trial site, and with the knowledge that we wanted to start, with clean turf. So we started the trial on the 22nd as a consequence with clean turf. The trial was due to be completed on the 12th of January. That was meant to be the last data collection, but because of the way the trial was showing up, we kept collecting data up until the 12th of February. And the reason being is it was very, very interesting. I was kind of getting excited. In terms of research, this was the perfect storm. We got fantastic pressure to kind of get fantastic separation between treatments. So we kept recording. Now, the trial was conducted by myself, Ed Nangle, who is an associate professor in Ohio State University, and Marie, who happens to be my wife. So between the three of us, we are the Irish Sports Turf Institute. We do have people who work with us, help us with the maintenance, but in terms of conducting the trials, we conduct all the trial work. I'm a course manager for over 21 years, and I'm 30 years in the sports turf industry. Ed is over 25 years in the sports turf industry, and Marie is 8 years at it now. So collectively, we've over 60 years experience at doing this sort of stuff. Now, In terms of what we were asked to do, there was particular objectives. Obviously, we were asked to evaluate turf color, turf quality, NDVI, disease. We monitored climatic changes throughout the trial with our on-site weather station, and that was important because sometimes if a trial doesn't work out the way maybe people may have thought it should, often the weather can actually explain where the variation arose. And then obviously one of the things we do is we take extensive photographic records of the trial as we go. So basically on every scheduled date of data collection, we take a picture of each and every individual trial plot. And it allows us to get a kind of a flick through imagery of the plot. And if the trial does happen to get some serious activity, it shows the progression as the trial carries through itself. Okay, now next. Oh God, we got ahead of ourselves there. Okay, in terms of climate, if you look here, we have precipitation, and you can see we got quite a nice amount in around this period. Now, if you look at the temperatures, you can see that obviously temperatures remained reasonably high for that time of year up until kind of early November, and then they started to drop off. So we didn't see major disease pressure on the trial until we got into mid-November. I remember having a call with Ed, and I was getting quite apprehensive because nothing was happening. We weren't getting separation. We would have expected separation by this time. And he just said, relax, it'll happen when it's going to happen. Well, it happened, okay? But it happened to coincide with this kind of weather where the temperatures dropped down. And basically what happened there was basically the plant was no longer recovering from disease activity quicker than the disease. So effectively, we now got to a stage where we had the perfect storm. We had good temperatures, good enough for disease activity, and good moisture levels for disease activity. And we had slow enough growth rates where the disease infestation and damage got ahead of the plant's ability to recover and repair the surface. So, oh God, where did we get to that one? Hang on there. Where is the treatment list? Treatment list. Okay. So here's the treatment list, and you can see there's 12 treatments in there. And just to explain what we're looking at, if you look at treatments, they'll outline everything that's in there, and it's been put in a way that, let's say, this one is a 2-treatment program. So obviously, this new product, which is a new fungicide, that's is now hopefully will become available now very shortly. But Rod can tell you more about that. I'm only at liberty to tell you the number of the product. But basically, if you look at number 2, you'll see that we put down that new fungicide at 3 litres a hectare, and it went down at the start of the trial. So it went down on the 22nd of September, and that was the only time it was applied to the surface for treatment number 2. If you can see down the bottom here, just the slurry rate was 350 litres of slurry per hectare. Okay, and that applied to all of these. And I think, you know, with several trials working with this, that's allowed Syngenta obviously arrive at the slurry volume recommendations that they're at. So there's been a lot of work done in trying to perfect the optimum slurry level. And if you look at, say, we go down to treatment number 9, now we're into double treatments, triple treatments where the product, where there's a program of 3 applications 28 days apart. So if you look at number 9, for example, that new fungicide plus rider at 1 litre a hectare, and that went down on day 0. In Strata Elite plus rider at 1 litre, and Strata Elite at 3 went down on day 28. So DAI is days after initiation. Okay, so day 0 is the start date. And then you can see that we have rider here by itself. And then we have the fungicide program without the rider. And that was important that was in there just to see, was there any variation between just running the straight fungicide program or running a rider. You can see treatment number 12. Oh, what's happening there? Oh gosh. Sorry guys, my computer has a mind of its own. Treatment number 12 was the tree fungicide program, but rider went in at 2 litres a hectare. Okay, so that's the treatment list and the timing. So just to be clear on the timing, day 0 was the 22nd of September. Day 28 was the 22nd, day 28 was the 20th of October, and day 56 was the 17th of November. Now, just to note, we couldn't apply on the 17th, the weather conditions didn't allow us, so we applied on the 22nd, okay? So now moving on, oh God. So in terms of results, Rod, punish my computer. Now, come on. Right, okay, sorry about this. Quality ratings. Now, what we've done, rather than just confuse the graphs with too many lines running through it, we really focused on the treatments, which were tree fungicide program treatment, okay? And we obviously have control in there just to see what would have happened if we did nothing, okay? And as you can see from this, you can see that obviously control is down here in terms of quality. Now, just from a scoring point of view, we worked on a scale of 1 to 10. 5 would be just acceptable. I mean, that is the very lowest rating you would get, and that would be acceptable on a low to medium end club. It wouldn't be acceptable in a medium to high end club, okay? So 6 would be decent turf, but with signs of disease. 7 would be good turf, and you can see disease with a good look, but you have to look well at it. You can't see disease at a glance. You'd have to start. And then 8 gets into really good turf, and then you go beyond there. Okay, so you can see that treatment number 11, which was without the rider, it was down by the end of the trial, it was down here. Now, I might just add that by the time this final date of review, which for quality was on the 11th of February, that was 145 days after the application, and it was 12 weeks post the last application. Okay, so 12 weeks from the 22nd of November, these are the ratings we're getting. So in terms of this is still very good in terms of quality. What would have hurt that particular one in terms of quality was the color rating would have been well down. So in terms of looking at it, color would have been down, and that's why that's here. But if you look at the ones with the rider, whether it be 1 or 2 liters of rider, they actually held a very, very respectable about 6.7, which is very good for ratings. I'd be a fairly tough reviewer when it comes to ratings, and that was very good for those 2. Oh God, this keeps going in the wrong direction. Okay, now we move on to color. Oh God, it's a hypersensitive computer I have. Now going on to color ratings, as you can see, again, we've posted the three treatments which were on the tree fungicide programs, and then obviously control. And if you look at color ratings, obviously this is not acceptable. Again, 5 would be a very light green, 6 would be a moderate green, 7 is getting into a nice green. Now, just in terms of the vigor background to this trial, we put a base feed of fertilizer on this trial before the trial commenced, okay? So that there would have been a base feed went down in around the first week of August. Oh, sorry, the first week of September. This trial received no additional fertilizer inputs for the duration of the trial. So that was it. So when you look at color, a lot of this color is attributable to, 1, the plant was still healthy, but 2, rider was without doubt adding to the color ratings quite markedly. So you can see there's the blue line is a treatment 11, and you can see it's riding well below the 2 upper lines, which are with rider in there. And as you might expect, the treatment with rider at 2 liters gave a better rating. Okay. Now hopefully I'll do this in the right direction. Oh. Okay, now we're on to NDVI. And now this rating is one of the objective ratings that we do. We do this with a field scout. I think it's TDR 500. And now it actually says color monitor on this on the piece of equipment. We don't see it as a color monitor. We see it as a plant density monitor. And that's really what it is. It's measuring plant density. And you can see here that all three with the fungicide in there were running where they were holding similar densities. Obviously, control had fallen off a cliff. There's not much difference in this, but in terms of NDVI readings, this is a huge variation. Okay, so it measures very small nuances in the turf, but again, it was showing clear benefits in there with the fungicide program. Now let's see. Okay, moving on to disease. Just wanted to show you this. This is how we measure disease. We throw a quadrant down. Now, if you look at the quadrant, the inside of that quadrant is 1200 by 1200, and all of those sub quadrants or subplots, if you like, are 300 by 300 millimeters. Okay, that little block that's sitting in the middle there is a 1% rating. Okay, that's covering 1% of that surface in that subplot. And what we do is we go and see which block would be required to, which block would we fill up with disease within that subplot, and we do an average, and that's how we tend to get our disease. If I was to throw the block at the bottom right there into the middle there, and that's a 10% block, and I got somebody to come up and review that, they would home in on that block and they'd say, oh God, it's 20% or 30%. It's not, it's 10%. So we're very, very detailed in how we do. So there's an element of subjectivity to this, but there's also a huge element of objective measurement here, because we have a very objective weighing or measuring tool to assist us. We don't use it all the time, but we use it very routinely because it allows us to calibrate our eyes. And if I ever feel that my eye is going off, this thing hits the ground again, and we start recalibrating the brain to a very accurate count. So anyhow, God, this thing does not want to. Look at this. It's to do with the presentation. Okay. Now this is the real interesting one, and you're going to see some photos now which are very interesting. This is disease pressure that we got. Okay. Now the photos will suggest a higher disease count, but trust me, the turf was absolutely devastated. Okay, as you can see, treatments 9 and 12 are pretty much clean as a whistle, and that's why we kept reviewing this trial. Okay, remember, if you look here, the last application of fungicide went down here. Okay, and over here we're looking at 12 weeks post last application. These two treatments are on the floor. Okay, the one without the programmed approach without the rider, as you can see, it's still a very, very respectable. Looking at that, that's in around about 2.8%. Fantastic. And then the control is basically, the control is a situation where you're probably not going to keep your job, or if you do, you're going to come under huge pressure. Okay, so there was huge separation there, and you could certainly see the benefits of the programs that were put in place. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Okay, now this is an aerial photo we took with our drone. Okay, this was taken on the 14th of February. We didn't take it on the 12th, probably because it was too windy, or I just hadn't got time to get out there and get the thing up in the air. But I wanted to get this photo because it really tells the story. Now, I just want to make one thing clear, because you're looking at the treatment list here on your left-hand side, okay? And I don't want there to be any confusion here, because you'll see treatment 5 is in Strata Elite plus the rider. That went down on day 0. That went down 146 or 47 days before this photograph was taken. So effectively, that particular treatment was running de facto as another control. It was the fungicide had discharged its capabilities. Unfortunately, we didn't get pressure at the time at the start of the trial for it to show what it can do, but it was effectively that piece of turf was completely unprotected at that stage. Okay, so there was no way you could have any reasonable expectations that that turf would be protected with a one treatment application. Now, if you look at, there's the control in here. Okay, we have treatment 11, which is the three-pronged fungicide program without the rider. You can also see there's another rep there. The right-hand side is getting a little bit of scarring in there, but that's why it didn't score as well as treatment 9 and 12. If you look at these, they are incredibly clean, okay? You can see again treatment number 4, which was a day 0 application. Again, that fungicide had discharged its capacity long before the disease pressure came on. So effectively that was running like a control as well at that stage. Also number 2 was a single application treatment. So I just want people to understand that when they look at some of these things, even though some of them had fungicide in there, they had fungicide applied 147 days after or before this photograph was taken. So it's important to understand that. So that's that. Okay, now we decided we wanted to just do a little kind of imagery, and we started on day 56 because 1, we couldn't fit all the photographs in, but 2, this is kind of when the disease pressure really started to come on and we were starting to see disease in plots. Okay, so the first 55 days or 50 days, we weren't seeing a whole lot, but when it came to day 56, all of a sudden we were recording disease and I got really happy. Okay, so as you can see, this is treatment 1, which is the control, and I think it's rep 3 that has been used for this. So I'll just bring it through here. So you can see we have disease starting to take place there. Now this is treatment 9. Okay, now again, all the pictures that are being shown, they're the exact same plot that's being shown all the time. Okay, so you can see we use treatment 9 with 1 liter of rider because we felt that that's typically an application rate that may typically be used just because it gives a nice level of green rather than 2. Now, at day 70, this is what we're going to see. So here's the control again, starting to get unpleasant. Now, there we go with number 9, day 90. Okay, we're really starting to burn up here now. Again, we have really, really clean turf on treatment 9. There we go, at day 112. And here we go again at day 112. So this is what we were seeing, and the picture I showed you in the previous slide establishes that as well. This one is again day 146, and then this one is treatment 9. Now, if you look here, that's actually not on the plot. If you can see that just there is the corner of my plot there, and there's the corner. If you plumb a line there, you'll see left of that line is that disease. The plot is actually spotless, and I'm really proud of that because it shows how accurately we put down our applications. So that is left outside. That's in the little 200 millimeter margin we put in between all of our plots. That allows me to spray and then walk back out of the spray area without walking across loads of plots. So yeah, we're really happy with that. So that's pretty much what we found in the trial. And as a practicing core superintendent, this really, really caught my attention and I got really excited. One of the main reasons was because there was a new fungicide in the program, something that at that stage wasn't available. And I believe it will be available, and Rod can fill you in on that. Because we're now in an environment where there's so many materials being removed from our usage, there's an awful lot of pressure on professional turf practitioners to keep turf healthy, but without the same tools that we might have had 10 years ago. So to know that there's a programmed approach with 3 fungicides that are on the market, look like they're going to stay on the market for at least the medium term, that gives an awful lot of comfort. So if you can get your timings right, get the stuff down early enough and protect your turf, it looks as though we won't have to suffer too much pressure that we might otherwise get from our clientele. So that's a very positive thing from my point of view. From a practitioner point of view also, one of the things that I've been doing over the last decade is I've been transitioning my turf to non-POA dominant turf, trying to mitigate the fact that we are losing pretty much all the synthetic chemistries are nearly gone now, and probably rightly so. It's apparently, you know, it's better for the environment, it's better for us as people who have to handle this material, but it puts an awful lot of pressure on. So I've been transitioning turf to non-POA dominant. It doesn't bother me whether it's cabbage, rhubarb, bent, fescue that I'm growing, as long as it's disease and drought tolerant and provides a good surface and looks well. That's all I'm interested in. So I've been pumping these better, finer grasses into the surface. But in order to do that, you have to back off on the nitrogen inputs, because if you stay high on nitrogen, you can be guaranteed you're not going to transition from POA dominant to non-POA dominant. Now, I think a lot of you guys are miles ahead of if you like, southern countries in Europe. And so I'm speaking to the converted here. But one of the things I've found by using Rider, because I'm on much lower nitrogen input to try and discourage POA being a more dominant force and let the other grasses have a more competitive edge, the turf is invariably at a much lighter colour. Golfers tend to feed with their eyes, so by using the Rider, you can mask over the fact that you're actually keeping your turf lean, give the golfer that dark emerald green that they're actually looking for. I don't like it. I like yellow. Yellow is great for me. But if that's what the golfer wants, it's great. Now, the other thing I've often used it for is if we've fallen behind on something where we do get a little bit of disease infestation and we need to mask over, we have found that we have masked it very well with Rider. We typically go 2 litres when we fall behind. And it's amazing. If the golfer can't see it, it's not there. It's as simple as that. I've been on golf courses where they are striped up to no end, and the golfers think they're the most beautiful golf courses in the world. But when I look down at the turf, it's very poor quality turf. So understanding that golfers, they digest with the visual and not really what is there. This is where these kind of tools can really be of assistance. So as a practitioner myself, I use quite a lot of Rider, and it's a very, very useful tool. So Rod, I don't know what else to say.
No, thanks, Mark. No, I think we'll just give the opportunity for questions, and then so anyone's got any questions, just either type them in or just unmute yourself and fire away.
Yeah, I actually have a question. It's not me asking the question. It's actually coming from Facebook. So there's one question about, is it possible to use Rider as a green powder mix, the green divot mix sand, or do you have another product for that?
Yes, you can use Rider to colour the sand as well. Yeah, that's something that you can do. What I'll do because I can't remember the rates now, Lars, but I will send you the rates and you can send it out to people after how much Rider you're using, what quantity of water, etc., to colour the sand.
Very good. Thank you, Rod. Also, I don't know if you have any questions, please, you can raise your hand or just take it here if you are on Zoom, or if you're on Facebook Live, you can just, as I said, put the questions out there. As there's no questions yet, I can ask another one, Rod. When I'm around, I get some questions about mixing with other products, a Rider. Is it possible to mix with any product, or how does that work?
No, it's a really, really good mixer. It's very good compatibility. Just a couple of watch outs. One is copper-based products, so don't mix it with something that's a copper-based product. Okay. And then some of the more bulky water solubles, just need to be careful with those. So ammonium sulfate, iron sulfate, be careful of those. If you can avoid those mixes, it'll be best. But if you are going to do a jug test first and make sure that the water soluble is fully dissolved before you add in the Rider. But if you can avoid those two, it's pretty good other than that.
Okay, thanks. So just and as you mentioned, the jug test, might be somebody out there don't know how that works. Can you explain it?
Yeah, just put the get a small measuring jug and just try the components that you're going to put into the tank mix spray tank. So put in one by one, stir it around it, and then just check through a filter that you're getting no sediment from that combination.
Mm. Okay.
Generally, I've got a tank mix list we can share. We've got a wide range of products that we've already tested. So yeah, it's a very good mixture in general. It's just those bulky water solubles, which actually even alone can give a residue that you need to watch out for.
Yeah, because and I know there's a lot of. I was out on a couple of golf courses this week actually, and talked to some of our some course managers, and they was about when you talked about enhancing actually the efficacy or of the fungicide using together with Rider, and I get the question is is it okay to mix Medallion and Rider when you do the last applications? And I say yes, and I think your presentation really showed yes, you should.
Yeah, I think that's the key message for me, because it's from the results we got, it's just so good to mix them. It just makes perfect sense, so I think that's the key message. When you're doing your fungicides, put in the Rider in as well. It's particularly for the Nordics, where you've got that long over winter period, it just makes perfect sense, and we've seen fantastic results. So.
Yeah, thanks. And I think Håkan, you raised your hand. Can you ask your question yourself? Might need to unmute if you are muted. Unmute. Where are you? Håkan. I will ask you to unmute. Are you there, Håkan? Okay.
Just while Håkan's unmuting himself, then just to say that the coded product there we hope to bring to the Nordics for next year. That coded fungicide is a combination of two systemic components. So the mix that we're putting together is moving from systemic to systemic contact, and then the final one is the Medallion pure contact. So that's typically how we would go into the autumn period, from moving from the systemics more to the contact products, and finishing with that Medallion. That will really give you that long-lasting protection through that overwinter period under the snow cover.
Yeah. And if Håkan, are you ready now? Oh, I have another question from Facebook. So it is actually from Sarah as well. That is not Facebook. Can Rider help against wind drying in the springtime?
Well, that's a tough one. In terms of it drying and causing a stress, that might help in that it's being stressed. But I don't know, Katie, have you had any experience with that situation in pigments in Canada?
I know that it just because it looks greener, you don't see the desiccation. So when you have that decline in turf quality there in the spring, with the pigment, we don't see it decline as much. So, but I haven't measured exactly is it from the desiccation or the wind stress that you're describing, but that decline we do see in the spring once all the snow has melted in Canada. We did see a benefit with the green up with the pigment. So I would hazard to guess that you would be happy using it if you see that often as a pattern on your golf course.
Great. Thanks, Katie. Katie's our global technical manager, so I should have introduced her. So, and she's been running the next seminar series looking at covers as well. And she's from Canada, so got a good background in overwinter survival and helping the plants stay alive for that winter period.
As Lars says, a proper winter I have experience with.
Proper winter, very good. Thanks, Katie and Rod. Another question. So this is one from Facebook. Is it, sorry, I need to find them. This one. Does rider leave your spray tank very discolored?
Not this tank. No. You need to be careful. You know, getting it on concrete or other surfaces. It will stain if you get it on there. But the actual tank itself shouldn't be stained. Give it a good clean. But you know, spray equipment again. That potentially might have to clean that. Mark's probably nodding. He's probably. But the actual inside of the tank, I think you can confirm, Mark, that doesn't stain, does it? The inside of your tank.
No, it's to be honest, we get to see who cleans their tank routinely or not. It's definitely, if you're not into washing your gear, it's going. If it gets to dry on a surface, I mean, that's what it's designed to do. It's a fantastic pigment. It dries on the surface, and if your turf isn't growing particularly fast, you get good longevity out of that color. You have to mow it off, sort of plant. So it'll do a job on your equipment if you don't wash it or rinse it out properly. Yeah,
and like I say again, just be careful. Cover up, you know, concrete or you know the holes. You know, it will stain when it hits. So just be conscious of that.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, this is now I have the question. Håkan has a problem with his audio, but he wrote this question here. So, can you apply foliar fertilizer after applied rider?
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem at all.
Yeah. And was it
with the rider?
Sorry?
We put the foliar fertilizer in with the rider. There's no problem. Ferrous sulfate, ammonium, it doesn't. It all goes through the tank. There's no issues. At least we haven't found that.
Perfect. And was it only one application in the autumn? You had your. I think when you showed your applications table, Rod, for like proposed of rider, wasn't that 2 or 3 applications this autumn?
3 applications, and the work that Mark showed, that's 3 applications of rider. 3. So each fungicide, put the rider in with each fungicide.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 3 to 4 weeks apart, rider in each one.
Yeah, good. And then this is the question which everybody's waiting for now. Will the football and the shoes be colored? Thanks, Håkan. Thanks, Håkan.
Yeah, so, okay, this is an interesting one. So football, it all comes down to sort of drying time, really. So if you're in the summer and it's going to dry very quickly, you won't have a problem. But as you get into the autumn and the leaves are staying wet, we recommend that you actually leave it 3 days before you play after the applications of rider. You need to get the product dried on the leaf, or it will stain your football kit if you're sliding, or the boots. So it needs to dry. Is the answer.
But in golf, it's not an issue, Rod.
For golf, it's not an issue. No.
Yeah, no.
It's just in those stadium environments where you haven't got a lot of air movement. It's not drying, and the product can sit down in the canopy and not dry out in those autumn periods where it's very wet. So 3 days after the rider before you play, or you risk getting some staining.
Yeah. Thanks, Rod. Okay, any more questions, guys? Just go ahead. I know we are on overtime, or we are a little bit, but if you have any questions, we can take them. If not, I think I will round up this one. Not round up, but we will round it up. Thanks to Rod, thanks to Mark, thank you for presentations, and really thank you a lot to all of you guys who are listening and watching, both on Zoom and on Facebook Live. I know there's quite a few of you. I hope you got more information of what you really was looking out for, and I think we are where we are in this situation, this difficult time. So instead of us being there with you, this is how we do it now, and I think for me it works fine. I think hopefully it's been working fine for you guys as well. And as we have Katie here, It's good to have you here, Katie. Thank you. So for our third and last webinar in the series, it will be in exactly 2 weeks' time. Thursday in 2 weeks, same time, same channel, same link. Everything is the same, except Katie will do the presentation. She will talk about covers, which is something I know it's been really a lot of people, a lot of course managers talk about covers last 3, 4, 5 years here in Nordics. So it's quite high awareness. And one of the reasons I think is also me being around her, hearing that they feel they have control of the disease during the winters now. They feel they have the techniques, the products, and that's one of the reasons. But you know, still there are issues with ice burn, and one of these is covers you can help out with. So Katie, you will be there. Do you have a teaser? Please go ahead.
Well, I'll be giving you some summaries from research I did at the Prairie Turfgrass Research Center in Alberta, where we face long winters, ice damage and desiccation, and probably similar conditions to what some of you are facing. And I'll go through different tarp types and strategies for venting under tarps and when to do that and how. And I look forward to talking to you all in 2 weeks' time on following the same link, right, Lars? All right.
Thank you, Katie. And also with Katie at that, we will also, I think one of the course managers in Sweden, which most of you know, Torbjörn Pettersson, he will also join a little bit with his experience as well, and you will have some discussions around there. So I think that would be a good one as well. So then this is the last thing to say. Thank you very much. Thank you all of you for joining, and stay tuned for in 2 weeks. Then we have the last series, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everyone. Thanks a lot, Mark, as well. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks,
Thank
Rob.
you. All the best. Bye.
Take care.
All the best. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Au revoir.